face and haircut incongruent with his physique, loose-fitting clothes that don't complement his physique, muscles way too big to be attractive anyway. If you want to know how not to Looksmaxx, follow these 3 steps, because this is exactly what this guy has done. Impressive? Absolutely. Shows dedication, hard work, and is worthy of respect? Again, absolutely. But attractive to women? At best, maybe 5% of women like this. Let me make this clear, this is generally not what women desire. This won't get you matches on Tinder. And it is certainly not something you should be working towards or aspiring to, if you want to attract women, of course. Now, I want to make a very important distinction before continuing with the video. I am not saying you shouldn't go to the gym. You should. However, it's important to understand the difference between training for aesthetics and training for non-aesthetics. The ideal body for aesthetics is this, whilst the ideal for non-aesthetics can be anything. But from what I've seen, it usually converges to being as jacked and beefed up as possible. And interestingly, physical health tends to be superior when training for aesthetics. Now, this guy, fair enough, if asked why he takes gym so seriously, he might say it's because of mental health, or to see how much he can push his body, how much weight he can lift in future. I'm not here to judge in this video if or why he's made this decision, or even what decision you might make. This video is about how not to Looksmaxx. But please, don't be someone who wants this, while saying you are actually going gym because of this. There is nothing wrong with saying you're in the gym to look better. And I'd say the only exception is if you are talking to a girl, as you don't want her to think you're arrogant. But even worse, please don't be a guy who thinks they want this, when their workouts and training are pushing them towards this. If you make this confusion, it is the definition of rotting in the gym. You think you're making progress and making yourself look better, but in reality, you're making yourself look worse in the eyes of girls. And I've often seen guys make this mistake because they have tunnel vision that if they keep going to the gym, it's only going to lead to more positive outcomes, because it's a positive habit. However, in truth, it's often just a coping mechanism in order to stop them from doing something else productive, such as work, or actually speaking to girls to progress their dating life. I don't know if this is the reason this guy has chose to train like this, but if it is, I'd ask him and anyone else to please don't make this confusion. And if you are currently making this confusion, then instead learn when to stop and know when you're pushing through the barriers of diminishing returns. To make it easy, if you see yourself moving away from this physique in any direction, then you are making yourself look worse. And if you've come to this channel for Looksmaxxing and learning more about what women find attractive, then I'm guessing you'd want this. In which case, you should listen to this advice. Now I've got that distinction out the way, when bringing back the 3 mistakes I listed, it's important to learn these to ensure you aren't harming your Looksmaxxing journey when you should be enhancing it. I'll try to keep these explanations brief because if I went too in-depth for each one, I'd just end up repeating videos I've already made. Put simply, for this first point, it's a mistake because his face is clearly a pretty boy archetype. Meaning he's in a niche that would appeal to girls who dig the Harry Styles or teen Justin Bieber aesthetic. Meanwhile, his physique is closer to that of Hulk Hogan's. Therefore, this incongruency means he has a conflict of niches. The pretty boy chasing girls will reject him because of his physique. The gym girls will reject him because of his face. I'll put it this way, if you saw a girl with a really pretty face, great personality, very sweet, but she was literally covered in tattoos and smoked all day, you'd probably reject her, because her behaviours don't match the other aspects about her. So, the solution for him Looksmaxxing wise will be to either masculinize his face or demasculinize his body. The first can be done with minoxidil to grow a beard, trimming the e-boy haircut to a fade or buzz, and losing the smart glasses. Or to achieve the second, if he wants to stay in the pretty boy niche, he needs to lose at least 30% of his muscle mass. Everything else can stay the same. And in my opinion, I believe he should do the second solution because his face has a youthful complexion, and as I mentioned, his muscles are way too big to be attractive anyway. This leads nicely into the second point. I can say with 100% certainty that this guy would have a better dating life and more women interested in him if he looks like this instead of this. His physique is what people would describe as doing too much, taking Looksmaxxing to the extreme. Or, as I already mentioned, if he thinks he's training for aesthetics, then rotting in the gym. And to prove this, what better proof do we have than from women themselves? If you've ever seen those videos of guys asking girls what type of physique they find the most attractive, they almost always pick the guys with a lean physique, decent muscle, not roid maxed, and not the 30% plus body fat guys either.
What's your ideal body type?
15%.
15%.
Yeah.
Okay, why 15%? Like, why not?
Okay, because like if you're too fucking ripped, you just red flag, and if you're kind of it's not my thing. It's some people's thing, but mine's 15%.
What is the ideal body type? So I got like a photo. You kind of made like
Okay. 15%. Yeah, agreed. 15%. 15. Maybe 20.
All right, so we got a 15. We got like a 30.
I got 20. 15 or 20. 15 or 20. 15.
Okay, so mostly like 15, 20. Like, why mostly like 15, 20? Like, these ripped ass guys.
It's like a little too much.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just like better because you won't feel self-conscious.
And then it's like all they do is go to the gym.
Remember guys, you're not trying to become ripped out of your eyeballs. As shown, this image on your screen is as close as a man can get to the ideal male physique in the eyes of women. I repeat, in the eyes of women. However, based on what YouTube gym gurus have told you, you may not actually believe this. You might think that these girls are lying. Even people in the comments were saying stuff like this. The funniest ones are these. All of them are gonna cheat on their boyfriend with someone who has a lot of muscle. Mark my words. Because they know they can't handle the guys with low body fat percentage. You can tell these comments were written by gym copers who's struggling to come to terms with how they've wasted a lot of time investing in something that won't bring the returns they'd hoped. Perfect example of sunk cost fallacy. And it's because they don't understand the female gaze. The memes are true. If you turn into a roid maxer, you will get respect from other men, while neutral at best, potentially negative responses from women. And to prove it, here's the science behind it. The reason you as a man might believe this physique is the best is because it evolutionarily makes sense. There's no question this physique is the most dominant, threatening, and intimidating. Which means in a tribe, if you have this physique, you'd be able to fight off any male competitors. Or if someone else in the tribe had this physique, you'd automatically concede to their stature, which allows them to be the top dog. Meanwhile, when it comes to women's preferences, their evolution means they are concerned less about fighting and the dominance hierarchy, and more about what features indicate good genetics and providership in a mate. What this means is a physique like this might be great in terms of physicality, but would be useless for hunting and efficient burning of calories, which are the main factors of survival. In other words, if women chose men with these physiques, They would have had a useless hunter who also needs a ton of calories to maintain his muscle. And because genes are passed down, it means the babies would end up similar, consuming a ton of calories which just weren't available in those times. Therefore, instead, men with lean, athletic physiques prevailed because they were efficient with their calorie expenditure and could bring a lot of food home with their fast and agile bodies. And in response to this, we can make a generalized statement that if you want to Looksmaxx, then it should have an evolutionary reason that aids your future wife and increases the probability she will seek you out among men. No evolutionary reason, or harmful evolutionary reason, such as big muscles, means you shouldn't be doing it. On the flip side, you can see how these Looksmaxxing techniques all coincide with making you more attractive. And that's because they also coincide with an evolutionary reason for why they help survival. Now, some of you might be wondering, but what about Nichemaxxing? Which is something I've spoken a lot on before and think is an important factor for improving your chances as a man, especially on online dating apps. So, expanding on this, it's true at first it doesn't seem like it would help from an evolutionary point of view, because how would blue eyes over brown eyes help with anything? Or one hair colour to the next help? Even less so non-genetic factors like having tattoos or the style of clothes you wear. And before delving into this, I want to say the next part of the presentation will be a little theoretical and I have no explicit research to back my points up. But hopefully the argument is still logical and you're able to resonate with it anyway. I believe ensuring genetic diversity is the biggest factor for why Nichemaxxing is beneficial from an evolutionary point of view. Because factors such as different eye colours, hair colours, etc. indicate that a person's genes are slightly different to the general population, which can ensure herd immunity in times of disease that would otherwise wipe out everyone if genetic diversity wasn't there. And as for non-genetic factors, such as tattoos and your style, I think this comes down to how humans are extremely complex. And as we're the most complex species on Earth, you can see how individuals may be able to develop their own unique tastes and preferences when seeking a partner. Basically, looks is always going to be a tiny bit subjective, and separating yourself from the masses may give you an edge if you're only competing for a smaller number of girls. It also makes mate guarding easier because if your girl only desires your unique style, and she's super hot so she gets hit on all the time, then you know that 95% of men automatically don't have a chance because they aren't in the niche that your girlfriend desires. It's worth noting though that Nichemaxxing shouldn't be taken to the extreme. Because if you are over niche, you can fall into creep maxed territory, which is where you are so dissimilar from the rest of the population that you can be deemed an outcast. Check out this video. Now, this guy isn't horrendously ugly. He's average or above. But the main reason he got such a bad result is because he's wearing some ridiculous white suit and dyed his hair a matching colour. If he made his appearance a little more presentable, he wouldn't have faced this humiliating outcome. From this, it makes sense that an ideal amount of Nichemaxxing should exist on a spectrum which is optimal for your chances in dating. If you are too similar, you don't bring any diversity, which is important for those evolutionary reasons I said about. And other genetic problems. I'm alluding to the issues arising if you share genes with a relative here, which explains why you aren't attracted to them. And on the other end of the spectrum, you also shouldn't be too diverse that you are so far away from the average that you become a social outcast. The ideal amount of Nichemaxxing lies somewhere in the middle, which should cordon off a small portion of the market for yourself and gives you the best chances with these girls. Here's another couple good examples I've found. One last point here on Nichemaxxing, which I've already touched upon a little. Your niche must be congruent across all aspects of your presentability and life in general. I recently had a consultation with a guy who was asking why he's getting no matches on Tinder despite being a 6 out of 10. The reason was because his photos were all over the place. He had one picture that was all broody, mysterious, making him look like a harder man. Then he had others that were well put together, smiley, friendly, making him look like a boyfriend. So, the outcome is women looking for short term would reject him when they see the boyfriendy pics, while women looking for relationships would reject him when they see the broody pics. You need to tell a story when a woman is scrolling through your profile, and have an understanding of the target market you're trying to attract and how you can niche max in order to capitalize on that. Whether you're seeking short term with minimal dating involved, just straight to Netflix and chill, then you need to get jacked, get some hardcore pics, maybe shirtless selfies, and be renting a mid to high end apartment with good transport connections. If you're looking for a more classy girl for a relationship, then you need to style max. Trench coats, sophistication, and pristine hair are a must. And you have to have professional looking photos which highlight you're an ambitious, well-to-do man. Conflicting these niches makes the models fall apart. Anyway, that's all the content for today. Now, if you want personal Looksmaxxing advice for your own situation, directly from me, the creator of this video, then head over to my website where I provide personal face ratings and Looksmaxxing. A staggering 15,000 customers have been served to date. Additionally, you'll be pleased to know this won't break the bank either. The prices are super affordable with multiple packages available, allowing you to make the correct decision based on your own needs. So if you're interested, head down to the description and click on the first link. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys over there.